It started with the lights in the quarry. I'd been working security at the old Vensworth mine for 6 years. The place had been shut down long before I came along, after a methane explosion sealed off half the lower levels. My job was to keep trespassers away and make sure kids didn't hurt themselves trying to explore. Nights were quiet, just wind through the fence and the occasional fox slipping through the rocks. But one Tuesday in late November, the night felt different. The sky had the kind of stillness that makes you hold your breath. I started seeing faint points of bluish light far down in the darkness of the main pit. They weren't reflections, not flashlights. The glow shifted and pulsed, rising and falling in patterns too precise to be random. I radioed it in, but nobody answered. The mine seemed to have swallowed the signal. Against better judgment, I grabbed my torch and went down the gravel slope into the quarry floor. The lights retreated as I approached, slipping into a collapsed shaft like fish darting into a reef. I followed until I stood at the opening. There, I heard it. A low, layered hum that seemed to pass through my bones rather than my ears. Something moved in the dark ahead. At first I thought it was a trick of the torch beam, but then it emerged. A figure taller than any man, its body draped in smooth, jointless plates that caught the light in oily colors. Its head was elongated, eyeless, yet I felt it fix on me. A faint halo of mist circled it, as though the air bent differently around its form. It didn't walk. It slid, without sound, closer. Behind it, more shapes appeared. 5, maybe 6. The lights I'd seen before were embedded in their chests, pulsing in slow synchrony. I stepped back, and the hum deepened. The air thickened. My lungs felt like they were pulling in water. My torch flickered and went dead, leaving only that cold, bluish glow. When one of them reached out an arm, I saw that the plates shifted to reveal something beneath. Not flesh, not metal, but a lattice of shifting, translucent fibers. Within them, things moved. Dark, sinuous threads that writhed in a way that made my stomach knot. The largest one leaned close enough that I could feel a faint vibration radiating from it. It was communicating. Not in words, but in something deeper. An intrusive resonance that set every nerve alight. Images flashed in my head. Not memories, not mine. Deep black oceans under an alien sky, towers of bone and glass. A sense of being watched from a place between worlds. And something else. The mine's lower tunnels, but opened up far beyond any human map. Caverns big enough to fit cities. A suggestion, no, a certainty that these beings had always been there. The quarry floor shook. I realized the hum wasn't just sound, it was shaping the stone itself. In the near dark, I saw the rock face ripple, seams splitting to reveal smooth, wet corridors descending far into the earth. The beings turned, their lights pulsing faster, and began to move into those new openings. But the largest one paused, still facing me. A final wave of images burned into my mind. The ocean again, but this time with us in it, sinking, our cities collapsing. The air above swarmed with shadows that blotted out the Sunday. Then they were gone, swallowed by the earth, the seams closing like wounds. The hum faded. My lungs felt light again, though each breath burned. I stumbled back to the surface. My radio crackled to life just as I reached the security shack, voices asking where I'd been, why I hadn't checked in. I told them about the lights, about the figures, but my words sounded insane even to me. The next day, the quarry was quiet again. No lights, no hum, no sign of new openings. I almost convinced myself I'd hallucinated the whole thing until I saw the footprints. They weren't like any animals. Perfectly smooth depressions, elliptical, as if pressed into the rock by something impossibly heavy. A trail led from the quarry floor to the mine entrance, then back toward the pit, where it stopped abruptly at solid stone. That night at home, I felt a faint vibration through the floorboards, a slow, patient rhythm, like something deep below was still moving, waiting. And I knew with absolute certainty that the mine wasn't a mine at all. It was just an access point. The morning it began, the sky was the color of faded denim. I was driving to work along Highway 7, passing the same strip malls and gas stations I saw every day, when I noticed something felt off. I rolled down the window, No wind, no birdsong. The world had gone quiet. That's when I noticed the birds. Every telephone wire for miles was lined with them. Crows, gulls, starlings, all facing inland, away from the ocean. They didn't shuffle or twitch their wings. They didn't make a sound. Their heads moved in perfect unison, sharp jerks, as though they were all watching the same invisible thing moving just beyond human sight. I told myself it was just odd migration behavior. But then came the low buzzing. It started so low, I thought it was my tires on the road. A deep, distant vibration that I felt in my teeth before I heard it in my ears. The steering wheel trembled faintly in my hands. The buzz thickened, layering on itself, until it felt like the whole sky was resonating. Every car around me began slowing. People leaned out of windows, looking up. I followed their gaze. They were just there. Shapes, hundreds of them, hanging in the upper atmosphere like they'd always been there, waiting for us to notice. At first, I thought they were clouds, until I realized they had no edges. They were dark, almost black, but not opaque. They shimmered faintly, their surfaces slick and fluid like oil floating on water. They pulsed every few seconds, a faint shift in impossible colors, hues my eyes recognized but my mind couldn't name. The light bent strangely around them, not like heat haze, but like reality itself was being pulled toward them and forced to curve. Phones died within the hour. Screens went black, radio stations dissolved into static. By noon, the buzz was a physical pressure inside my skull, making it hard to think. People filled the streets, craning their necks. No one shouted, no one screamed. It was as if the noise in the air stole the ability to speak above a whisper. Then, just before sunset, they began to descend. It didn't happen all at once. A few of the shapes dipped lower, and from them, long threads unfurled. They weren't mechanical cables or beams of light. They looked organic, translucent, and impossibly thin, swaying in the air like seaweed in slow currents. When a streetlight caught them, they refracted the glow into twisting rainbows. The first one touched a building downtown. I was watching from the ridge above the city when it happened. The thread brushed the roof, and instantly, the lights inside went black. The windows darkened, not with shadow, but with something deeper, an absence. For a few seconds, silhouettes of people appeared in the glass, frozen mid-step. Then they faded, leaving only emptiness. By morning, half the city was hollowed out. The structures remained, houses, offices, entire apartment blocks, but there was no movement, no heat, no sound. Doors swung open in the wind. Kitchens sat with food still on plates, steam curling faintly as if frozen in time. No bodies, no struggle, just absence. The military tried to respond. Jets screamed overhead, leaving contrails in the air. Missiles flared toward the shapes and vanished, as if swallowed. The shapes didn't move, didn't retaliate, didn't acknowledge the attacks at all. By the third day, the buzz had changed. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was inside my head. I'd catch flashes of things when I closed my eyes. Endless plains under alien skies, air thick and metallic, swarms of glistening forms drifting in currents I couldn't feel. The memories weren't mine, but they felt like they were being written into me. I realized then, these weren't ships. They weren't machines. They were alive. The threads weren't weapons. They were feeding. Those taken weren't being killed. They were being emptied. I stopped sleeping. I moved into the abandoned train tunnels under the city, where the buzz was faint. Down there, time didn't feel normal. Days slid by without sunlight, and yet I felt them above me, moving, covering more of the sky until I couldn't see stars anymore. I started hearing something new. Not the buzz, a voice. Not words exactly, but meaning, sliding between the spaces in my thoughts. It told me the emptiness wasn't destruction. It was preparation. That we were being cleared of unnecessary parts, reshaped to join them. When I touched my reflection in a puddle, my fingers looked wrong. Too long, too thin. My skin had a faint sheen, like oil on water. I don't know how much longer I can hide. I'm not even sure I want to. The voice says that soon I'll understand, that the buzz will stop. Outside, the sky is completely black now, alive with shapes too massive for my mind to hold. The threads are everywhere, swaying, searching. Tonight, they will reach the tunnels. And when they do, I think I'll step forward. The storm came suddenly, arriving in the dead of night like a silent predator. The sky blackened with thick, roiling clouds that swallowed every star. I was alone in my cramped apartment, the dull glow of my laptop screen casting weak light over peeling wallpaper and cluttered shelves. Outside, the city seemed to pause, holding its breath. The first drops struck the window with an odd precision. They didn't fall like rain, no scatter, no splatter, just heavy beads landing in perfect, steady lines. Each drop shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the dull orange of distant streetlights. The glass seemed to drink them in, slick and oily. The sound was wrong, not the familiar, comforting patter of rain, but a sharp, high-pitched hiss that filled the room like static electricity, making my thoughts twisted and frayed. The noise wasn't steady. It pulsed, rising and falling, like a living thing breathing just beyond hearing. I tried to focus on the glowing screen, but the world was too silent. All the usual city noises, the distant hum of traffic, voices drifting from open windows, even the quiet buzz of my refrigerator, were gone. It was as if the rain swallowed every sound except its own eerie hiss. Curiosity outweighed my growing dread. I pulled back the curtain and stared into the empty street. The puddles didn't look like water. They rippled in slow waves, their surfaces shimmering like quicksilver. Then, I saw movement. Figures rising from the puddles. They emerged fluidly, like liquid metal becoming flesh. Tall and impossibly thin, their limbs elongated beyond any human form. Their skin was smooth and glossy, catching the weak light and refracting it in colors that shifted and writhed. Their heads were featureless ovals, tilted as if sensing some dimension beyond sight. One stepped forward. Its movements were deliberate and slow, unnatural in their grace. It turned its featureless head toward my building, pausing for a moment, as if considering me. The knocking started moments later, but it wasn't knocking. It was a dragging, scraping sound, slow and persistent, like something being scratched across wood grain, but deeper and broader. The noise sent a shiver crawling down my spine. I didn't answer. I couldn't move. Then the power cut out. Darkness swallowed the apartment, broken only by occasional flashes of lightning illuminating the twisted shadows. The hiss of the rain swelled to a roar, filling the room with an oppressive pressure. I could feel it pressing against my skin, invading the air itself. A clicking sound echoed in the hallway. Metallic, rhythmic. It grew closer, each step measured and deliberate. A shadow stretched beneath my door, flickering and pulsing like smoke in a breeze. Suddenly, the floor beneath my feet grew cold and slick. I looked down to see the metallic rain seeping through the cracks at the door's base, crawling toward me in tendrils of liquid silver. It pulsed faintly, like it had a heartbeat. I stumbled back, heart pounding, desperate to reach the bedroom. The door creaked open of its own accord. There, standing silent and still, were two of them. Towering and thin, their smooth faces rippled and twisted like water disturbed by the wind. Spiral patterns formed on their skin, spinning faster and faster, warping my vision and bending reality. My mind began to unravel. The rain's hiss morphed into whispers, countless voices speaking in a language beyond comprehension. Though I couldn't understand the words, their meaning seeped into my mind. Invasive, intimate, impossible to resist. They weren't here to kill. They came to claim. Time fractured. Minutes stretched into hours, or maybe days. I was trapped within their spirals, unable to escape. Visions flooded my mind. Endless black oceans beneath alien skies. Towers of liquid metal rising like dead trees. Swarms of beings moving as one collective mind. I felt the seductive pull of unity, the promise of release from pain and loneliness, the allure of assimilation. I remember a moment when my body felt weightless, as if dissolved into the rain itself. A part of me dissolved, and yet a deeper part awoke, knowing, connected, yet terrified. The spirals drew me closer to oblivion. When I finally regained control, the storm was gone. The sun poured through my windows, casting long shadows across the empty street. Outside, the city was eerily silent and deserted. Puddles dried up, as if the rain had never fallen, except for one. A single metallic puddle shimmered faintly on the floor by my bed, pulsing softly like a heartbeat, and my reflection smiled back at me. But my lips didn't move, because I wasn't alone anymore. Something had come back with me. Something that waited patiently beneath the skin.